How's it going, everyone? We got the Once in a Blue Moon update dropped today, June 20th. By the time this video goes live, it'll already be the next day. I got an opportunity to jump in a little bit, get a few things done, skim the patch notes, and I definitely have a good amount of things that I want to bring up. A little bit of perspective and other things to definitely look forward to, not just with the new update, but the new season and other things to look forward to. I definitely have some criticism of some of the updates, but let's get right into it. Let's start calling out some of the highlights. And let's try to get through this quickly so we can jump right back into Appalachia. Alright, so we got our Once in a Blue Moon update saying the Blue Ridge Caravan is back and needs your help with its expanding business. Our Once in a Blue Moon update introduces 2 new cryptids, public events, side quest rewards, a daily ops mutation, and more. So real quick, I'd like to state that when it comes to, let's say, Nuka World on Tour, and I forget the exact update that brought Moonshine Jamboree, Eviction Notice. Oh god, I'm blanking on the third one. In any case, between those 3, let's say, events that were added, Nuka World on Tour had those and the boss. I'm hoping that a lot of the future updates that we get will focus on those things. We'll focus on adding more events to run, so the actual replayability aspect of it, new bosses, whether they're mini bosses or something that you might have to nuke to, let's say, fight. But we got that to look forward to. And like I was just mentioning, we do have new public events. It's saying Vinny Costa, head of operations for the Blue Ridge Caravan Company, is impatient with the members of the caravan, believing they're not pulling their own weight and contributing enough. Work with the caravan members to get them back up to speed and earn some sweet Blue Ridge Caravan themed items as a reward. So in terms of the factions that are in Appalachia, I'm personally a big fan of the Blue Ridge Caravan Company. I don't know if it's Kieran, when you're doing the event, Kieran, Eugenie, you're up. The voice actor for Kieran, let's just say that. If you've played Skyrim, you might recognize him. But in any case, I am happy that they are starting to expand on existing factions. Something like this makes me think, who knows, down the road they might actually explore expanding other factions that are in the game. One would hope. They already had their kind of Brotherhood of Steel expansion. Dare I say they might get a Responders expansion down the road. Very curious. So when I see these things, I'm trying to figure out what that could mean for future content, especially all these years into the game, what they've been doing, and kind of applying that looking forward. But for the new quest, one of them, we have Beast of Burden. After a trade deal goes wrong, Luca Costa finds himself in need of some help. A group of local cultists have stolen his Brahmin and cargo of makeshift explosives. His uncle Vinny will not be happy if he catches wind of it. The problem is he's too injured to get the supplies himself. Of course he is. Guided by Luca through a 2-way radio, you'll need to infiltrate the cultist den, lay down explosives, and reclaim his pack Brahmin. Be extra careful not to disturb the local wildlife, however, as the cultists have recently noticed strange rumblings in the woods nearby. A little hint at the new cryptid creatures, and the next one is Safe and Sound. Blue Ridge has renovated the Middle Mountain cabins to be their latest and greatest Brahmin pit stop, but they just can't seem to keep the local critters at bay. The repeller speaker system they use to repel the creatures and keep their Brahmins safe has been damaged. To retake the pit stop and create a safe haven for their Brahmin to rest, they will need your help. Clear out the creatures, defend the repeller, and the Blue Ridge Caravan will reward you handsomely for your assistance. So looking forward to that. I only ran Safe and Sound once so far, right before recording this video. Beast of Burden, very interested in seeing what that's all about. Between the Blue Devil, the Agua thing, very curious to see what rewards we'll get. I think when I killed the Blue Devil, I got a card. I'm still not too familiar with the card system, but I guess you get rewarded for killing these cryptids. It'd be cool if we can go back and, like, let's just say you kill the Snallygaster for the first time. Something like that maybe rewards you, gives you a little, like, baseball card info of the creature you're killing. We might see something like that. We got Costa Business, Daily Quest. Resident Grouch and Taskmaster, Vinny Costa hasn't been happy with the performance of his employees, and he'd be happy to throw some caps at anyone willing to solve the problem. Players can learn all about what has the caravanner's boots stuck in the mud, and collect some unique rewards along the way. In this series of one-off daily quests, unlike the other dailies, players will only be able to complete the series of 7 quests once, but each has a unique Blue Ridge-themed reward ranging from camp camp items to outfits. I really like that in terms of what I was mentioning before. If we're able to get updates that focus on, let's say, public events, that kind of replayability, focus on the strength of 76, where you're making a sandbox for a bunch of people to play in. And now to take it a step further, they're also considering people that might want to do, let's say, some more single kind of player quests as opposed to just events you're doing with other people. I like that this is, you just do it once, set it and forget it, get it done, get your challenges and their camp items, outfits, and other goodies. Definitely looking forward to that. Alright, we got Unmasking the Myth. Cryptozoologists rejoice. Our two new public events introduce the Blue Devil and Agua, two cryptids based in real life West Virginian folklore, and I understand there's a ton of cryptids within that folklore. I'm really curious to see how much they'll continue to dip into that, let's say, pool of creatures you can kind of bring into the game and it makes sense. Doesn't necessarily need to fit into the Fallout universe, but you can have a little bit of fun with it and say, hey, it's part of the local lore. So the Blue Devil, based on the real-life West Virginian cryptid, this massive dog-like creature will test your wits. Its terrifying howl will send your character into a panic mad dash for the vault. So real quick, considering I did just see the Blue Devil in action, I am not a fan that the scream that it makes is the same thing from Earl. I feel like you should make that scream specifically to Earl and then just have a wolf howling. Pretty sure it's not that hard to get that as an audio thing, but what do I know? Moving on to the Agua, also known in real life as the, what is it? I can't even say this. The Monongahela river monster. So it's not Monongah, it's Monongahela. Fair enough. This reclusive creature will retreat into its shell to shield itself from incoming damage. Be sure to time your attacks carefully. This kind of reminds me of the mole rat titan. It's like you can only attack it when the crystals are down. I have not fought this boss yet, so I'm curious to see, or I should say this cryptid yet, so I'm curious to see how it is going to work. The Blue Devil got melted. There was a good amount of people running the event, and it did not last long. I honestly feel like these cryptids should be similar difficulty to the Sheep Squatch Imposter. I don't think you should have to grab 3 pylons to be able to damage it, but I definitely think they should be buffed up. A cryptid should be a challenge, unless it's just like you're looking at it in a similar vein of like Snallygaster. Snallygaster only takes a few shots to kill, still counts as cryptids, but in any case. And then after doing all this, of course, you do get new rewards. Braving battle against, what is that? Is that even proper? Braving battle against these new, I have no idea. In public events is not without reward. Complete these events to collect a host of new items, from cryptid plushies to outfits, camp items, weapon skins, and more. Love to see it. Alright, so we got Season 13 as well. We're kicking off Shoot for the Stars with this Once in a Blue Moon update. Again, a lot of goodies to collect. Very excited. It's saying, who can resist the allure of the Hollywood sign? Grab a bag of popcorn and settle in. This new season will bring some of the iconic outfits, props, and more from the silver screen right to your camp. So I like this because these rewards, I feel like, will fit into the Atlantic City content that they're planning down the road. So it's like if you have things like this, you can maybe dress up a camp or a shelter in combination with future content and maybe set something up like your own casino or movie set of sorts, a combination of themes. Love to see it. Alright, so a quick look at some of the rewards. I'm just going to call out, we have new camp items, new armor paints, and a new ally, Joey Bello. So for the new items, create your own movie set with items like the Western movie set facade, director's chair, studio camera, and more. I think those will actually go pretty well with Most Wanted. The rewards, they have like the cutouts, both the scene cutouts, kind of like the backdrops, and let's say people from the town, the townsfolk cutouts. So I think a combination of those rewards, this season rewards, and even, let's say, that Atlantic City content whenever that comes out, because that'll probably also have rewards similar to previous expeditions. So the same way we would visit the pit and get all those rewards that are more related to the pit, something tells me you've got a lot of casino goodies to claim in the future, but we'll see about that. On to new armor paints. Become the daredevil you were meant to be with our various Stuntman armor paints, including the Stuntman Marine, Stuntman Secret Service, and many more. New ally, the wisecracking, self-proclaimed funny man, has lived a life full of laughter and loss, and is ready to bring the laughter part to your camp. Joey loves a good bubblegum wrapper joke and is quick to diffuse any tense situations with humor. This class act is sure to leave you in stitches, even if the cut is his doing. I'm curious to see if you can trade him too, similar to how other vendors you might have, or I should say allies you have at your camp, like Maul, he acts as a vendor, you can get things from him. Who knows, maybe this guy will sell you some bubble gum with some jokes aside. Alright, so I'm going to skim through some of this content. I'm going to make sure that the patch notes are linked in the video description, so anybody that wants to get to the nitty-gritty and read every single line, I will be sure to have that available for you. I want to say real quick in terms of daily ops, I personally am very neutral when it comes to daily ops. I run them to get my challenges done. I basically have all the daily ops challenges up to this point that I can get, where I know a bunch of people kind of gave up on daily ops and are still kind of grinding slowly some of the things that they're looking for. It's interesting with the feedback that I get from not only, let's say, my Twitch community, but other communities that we hang out and are part of. It seems like daily ops is just not as well received as I think this game wants to keep pushing stuff out. I think expeditions and daily ops both are like, I don't know. When I saw the AC thing, and the running joke is, I'm from Jersey and I don't even want to go to Atlantic City, so why would anybody else? So now looking at the pit, where a lot of people have stopped going, yes, this season you don't have to pay for fuel costs, things like that, so it's kind of making it easier to do expeditions. But me personally, even though I'm very neutral with daily ops and expeditions, I don't think this is what the community overall wants. I don't think they want new mutations, new daily ops. I think if anything, just add new rewards to existing stuff. I think that makes the most sense. Expeditions, another thing. I feel like it was ran a lot in the beginning, and then people just stopped running it. So, I don't know. Again, don't really know where this is coming from. Is it possible it was content that was created simultaneously with other content, and they put it on the back burner because it wasn't ready yet, and they're like, hey, let's focus on getting this ready for the next season? Potentially. That's kind of how I looked at expeditions. In my mind, they were probably working on the pit and something else simultaneously. The pit was closer to being finished because it's also, to a degree, reused, not necessarily assets, but lore, the trogs and all that from, like, let's say a previous Fallout game. I think it's a lot easier to just implement that as opposed to a whole new area. So again, part of me just feels like AC was leftover content they wanted to finish and not just throw out while the iron is hot. Is that how you strike while the iron's hot, as opposed to like in a year from now when expeditions might not even be a thought. In any case, rant over. So keep an eye out for that. Daily ops, and like I was just mentioning, we got some design changes and improvements, and expeditions is there. So again, I think this is good. I think this is kind of a quality of life response from Bethesda and them working on this. So right off the bat, removed ultrasight battery charges. Part of me feels like the battery charges should have been a one-time thing. Go from station to station, go donate stuff to Sophie, go, cook stuff up, collect whatever you gotta do, and then go around Appalachia. Was the Wasteland Guide? I forget the other third thing they were asked to do, but I feel like that should have been a one and done, and then from then on out, you can just head over there. I understand it's like you need fuel to go somewhere, but now apparently it doesn't matter, so what was the difference then? In any case, fuel quests no longer mandatory. All 3 fuel quests are now daily quests. Only 1 fuel daily quest will be active per day. I'm really curious to see how that's going to work, because now that those quests, the refuge quests, are counting as dailies, I was hoping that I can go to Sophie every day when I have the challenge to complete a daily quest or daily challenge, whatever. Because then you can just go to her, she's like, hey, give me 50 steel. And you're like, hey, here's 50 steel. And then she's like, here's a challenge for you. Congrats, you completed it. That's where my mind was going when I was going through these notes and skimming through them. But part of me thinks they're not going to make it that easy. Monday's going to be like one character, the next day you're going to have Esme, the next day you're going to have Sophie, so it's going to be maybe something like that. We'll see, we'll try to plan it out and see how efficient we can go about that, right? I do need to pay a visit. Excuse me. I gotta pay a visit to Giuseppe. He now has reduced stamp costs. I heard basically they were being halved. I haven't checked for myself. I did save up some stamps from last season as soon as I heard they were going to have reduced cost for things. Because why would I want to spend them all and have to grind them again when I can save them, spend like half, and then move on? I only personally have maybe like a dozen expedition rewards to go, and I'll probably sneak in some expeditions this season just so I can make sure I finish up whatever I'm looking for. Oh, also Ashes to Fire, that's a new one. Ashes to Fire now grants an increased number of stamps and legendary items as its reward. I actually really liked Ashes to Fire. Um, if I'm remembering correctly, I'm pretty sure that's the one that you can play the organ. No, that's the one with the radiation at the end. Regardless, I enjoyed running both of them. Now to know they have like a more rewarding one to do, I'm probably just going to focus on that. I'm probably just going to do Ashes to Fire, get whatever I can, and then move on with my life. Also, it's saying legendary items in its rewards. It's been a minute since I've done expeditions, but it's saying increased number of stamps and legendary items. I feel like in the past we've maybe gotten like 2 legis per expedition. So does that mean we get like 3 or 4 now? We'll have to see. Onto weapon and armor descriptions. So this is kind of interesting. They tweaked the gameplay settings. It says we've added the ability to turn advanced mod descriptions on or off. And then by default it is turned off. The interesting thing is I got very excited. I thought it was going to be a nice quality of life improvement. Recently had a conversation about this specific little update. Before it came out, I was like, oh, that's great. I can try to min-max things, really see what kind of damage I'm doing. But after kind of seeing it in effect, the advanced mod system is useful because you can kind of see like, okay, if I use this mod and then upgrade it to here, am I gaining pros on one thing like accuracy, but then damage is like a con, so I'm not doing as much. I think that's pretty interesting. But after playing a lot of Diablo recently, Diablo is the game that you want to have those tooltips because any little change makes such a big difference. And the conversation I just had is that with 76, it's easy street. If you can't one hit something, boo-hoo, you two hit it. So I don't, it's weird because min-maxing used to be something in the beginning, and then as we all kind of found our own play styles and got into Appalachia, I feel like the game has just gotten so much easier over time, where this is another one of those things where it's like good intention, but for me personally, I'm like, it doesn't really make a huge difference in the game. And the conversation we also were just having about this is like, you know, if it says the weapon does 37 damage, and then the other mod does 30 damage, well, 30 is less than 37, right? So as long as you can quickly look at math and know what's higher or lower, I feel like that's all you really need. So I was a little upset when I was like, oh, this isn't delivered the way I thought it was going to be. But I'm just being critical. Alright, so now we got the item view and inspection. It's saying AP cost, fire mode, single, automatic, and charging. Ammo capacity and damage over time effects are now shown. Another thing, I personally feel like there's way too much shown on the screen. You can take out a weapon, and then it'll show you like 6 different legendary mods that are technically being applied. So like a fixer is what, like 5, I think? Because I think it does improve sneak damage, I can't remember now. And then something else. I feel like there's almost too much going on. And I'm pretty sure fixers are just called the fixer. I don't know why we once upon a time had a named anti-armor fixer, but now it's just the fixer no matter what it is. So strange. And there's also more that they've added to, so you can look at set bonuses. There's like new icons for that. I generally think this is a positive change, even though I'm being more critical of it. I feel like I'll use it a little bit, but once you know what you want to upgrade your weapons to in terms of mods and legendaries, I feel like this isn't a huge deal, but definitely probably more useful to newer players as they figure out like, okay, what do I really want to use? So I'll try to give them some credit where credit's due. So this is a weird one. Balance. I'm just going to jump straight down to the last point. We've adjusted the 2-shot legendary mod to deal its bonus damage more similarly to energy weapons. This is to keep the damage more in line with one another. That doesn't really say a whole lot. That just sounds like a nerf to me. And I'm pretty sure the 2-shot legendary affix was already nerfed like 3 years ago. So why are we still nerfing 2-shot into the ground? Anybody have a comment on that? Please let me know. Alright, what else we got? Additional design changes and improvements. I'm going to go straight to resets. During daylight savings, vendors now update their inventory at the same time as challenges at 11 a.m. And then it says outside of daylight savings, it'll happen at 12. So I'm pretty sure when it comes to vendors and other things, I think it was 20, is it 20 hours that I would reset or 22 hours? I know it wasn't a full 24. I guess this makes it easier for people to know, like, okay, when's this going to reset, regardless of when you last logged on. But if you had it where it was like 20, 22 hours, if you logged on a Friday at a certain time, the next day just log on a couple hours earlier, the next day log on a couple hours earlier, and then you could um, definitely try to work it in your favor so you can claim things at your leisure. But now if it's just going to be stock resetting at 11, I guess you could sell some stuff at 10:45, wait another 15, 16 minutes as soon as the reset, try to buy and sell some more things. It's only saying vendors. It's not saying anything about script or other things like that. So I am curious, but this is an interesting update, so keep an eye out for that. So I'm going to skim through the bug fixes, and like I was mentioning before, I will have all these, I should say I'll have the link to these patch notes in the description, so if you missed anything, if you're not pausing the video to read some of these, all that will be available in the description. Alright, so bug fixes and improvements. TeamSpeak, I like this one, just because I recently had an issue with this and I was so confused. Fixed bug that caused switching voice chat type settings to not always mute or unmute other players appropriately. So I feel like, for me, that's almost written a little weird, but I recently had it where I was hanging out, and I have all my settings to mute, let's say, public chats, and I had people's voices coming through the screen and all that. So I feel like this should address specifically that. Because I wasn't really switching voice chat types or anything like that. Yeah, I don't know. I basically just have it set one way. But in any case, there are a good amount of little tweaks here and there. I'm going to skip through a good amount of them. Camps and shelters. The very first one, Ally, Sam Nguyen, I feel like I maybe said it right, is now available to be purchased from Samuel for gold bullion. So I like the fact that we'll have previous content finding its way to vendors, whether it's like Sam at Foundation, maybe you go, I don't know, talk to Roxy from Creator, and instead of getting a daily quest or something, she'll give you something from a previous season. Who knows? I think that'd be kind of an interesting approach at the game, so people that are new to the game always can go back and claim things that are a little bit more significant, especially like allies. I'm curious to see how they'll set that up in the future. Like if you missed an ally, could they technically add even more to them? Or more allies to, let's say, Sam's weird loophole. You're like, hey Sam, I want to buy a person. And Sam's like, what? Alright. Moving on to crafting. Nothing crazy. Alright, challenges, dailies. Added a refuge daily quest to the list of completed daily quest type challenges. I was just mentioning how when I originally read that, I thought it meant I would be able to go to Sophie Wagner and then just be like, hey, what do you need today? And she's like, we need cloth. And then I'm just like, okay, walk 2 feet to the right, grab some cloth, walk right back to her and be like, here you go, and then just complete the challenge. We will see. The other challenges aren't too bad. If you have to cook with Esme, that only really takes 5 minutes of you running around. It's the other quest that I feel like it's the Wasteland Survival Book, something like that is the name of the quest. I forget the guy that you're supposed to talk to there, but that's not a very long quest either. You might have to just go collect aster flowers somewhere in the middle of the woods. So not a big deal. So I am happy to see that it finally was added to complete daily quests, because I originally had thought that was part of daily quests, completed a couple of them, didn't get credit, and then just never did them again. As for world challenges, the cold shoulder weapon now properly counts towards the challenge deal cryo damage to enemies. So that was pretty good. Little fixing of whatever weapons they've added recently, little tweaks here and there. To jump down to enemies, saying robots. I thought this was interesting. Fixed an issue that would cause players to take damage from an Assaultron's laser when they hadn't been hit directly. I think this means Encrypted is going to be easier, because there's a bunch of times that the Sheep Squatch imposter is like 20 yards out, hitting somebody behind a tree, and then all of a sudden your character just implodes. I understand the floor is on fire, the floor is lava, yeah, I get it, but I think maybe it's coinciding with the Kamehameha blast from the, robot. We'll see. So I'm going to keep an eye out the next time we do Encrypted, see if that actually makes it easier or not. And that's going to be like more useful for people running around, not directly fighting it. Because if you're directly fighting it, you should be getting blasted in the face. But if you're like behind the shed and it's across the lake or something, little pond, doesn't necessarily make sense for you to get attacked if you haven't been directly hit. Alright, so scrolling down, we got events, gameplay, power armor, we're going down to quests. So for quests, there's a couple of them I want to mention. For Nuka World, the following plans no longer drop from Nuka World on tour events after the player has learned them. Ultrasight, backpack flare, basically all the backpack flares. It's kind of stupid because you get the flare and then I guess are you missing out on a plan or as a reward? Or is it supplemental to? Not too sure. Or I should say in addition to. Oh, good to know. We can get some more plans. I only personally need, the caramel mute fruit recipe from Tunnel of Love. I have every other plan. I think it was yesterday, day before, I got the sheriff hat. That was the second to last thing I need. Just one more. Speaking of one, at least one violent night, fixed an issue causing the progress bar to unexpectedly stop. It was kind of shitty. Last season we were looking forward to these, mutated events, and then one of the first things we do is rush to one violent night. We found out that it was broken, and then basically the next day they're like, yeah, we pulled one violent night because it's broken. And we haven't seen a one violent night in like almost 4 months. So we'll be running some of that this week. And spin the wheel I wanted to mention. Fix an issue that would cause the keep moving twist. Would not be damaging players who are standing still. Admittedly, that would be me. That would be me just standing there. It would do the explosion thing. Even if you lost a little bit of damage, nothing crazy would happen. I want to see how much of a difference that is. Alright, and I'm also going to scroll down past weapons. I'm just going to mention the world, saying for vendors, the purveyor and certain loot lists will once again drop copies of plans players already know. I have no idea what that means. That's like too vague for me. The purveyor, I'm just going to stick to the purveyor. The purveyor, let's see, will once again drop copies of plans players already know. Since when is the purveyor dropping plans? Somebody please clarify. And certain loot lists will once again drop copies of plans players already know. I'm curious to know with the mutated events, those mutated party packs. For example, if you claim a bunch of them all at once, you'll get a bunch of plans, like back to back. Let's say the Rad Barrel plan, you might get like 5 in a row if you claim too many. So it's better to like open one at a time. If you want to learn it and then move on. So I'm thinking maybe this means even if you learn the Rad Barrel plan from a mutated party pack, it'll have another chance of dropping it again? I guess? Not too sure. Alright, and that basically wraps it up. We also have the UI, the user interface over here, some notes over here, but a lot of goodies jam-packed into these notes. Definitely looking forward to Once in a Blue Moon. I'll be checking that out with the Twitch community throughout the rest of the week. So definitely, if you haven't already, go check that out. Drop a follow, join us for some adventures. If you're on Xbox, the more the merrier. Come join us. Take place in some giveaways, some events, and other goodies. But Once in a Blue Moon, looking forward to this, the Encryptids, the challenges, the new season, the new quest, and all that goodness. I'll catch you guys in Appalachia. Take it easy, everybody.